Scan It, Try It, Like It, Create It. And today we're going to be using up our stash paper to make a set of gift cards. And so what I have in front of me is truly paper I have pulled out of my stash drawer. So scrapbooking paper works great. Things you've painted on and tested, stamping that didn't work out, printables that you've printed out and didn't use. I have an old calendar here. I'm going to use some of the patterns off of that. More scrapbooking paper, painting, testing pieces, all kinds of junk, scrapbooking paper that's cut down, more printables, even if they have words on them. I am going to take them, I'm going to cut them down into strips of all different sizes, just as long as they're, let's say rectangular or squared off in some way. So I'm going to do that with these samples, and then we'll come back and start building our collage. All right, so I have even a junk piece of cardstock that I'm going to build my collage on, and here are all of my scrap strips. All right, different sizes, different widths, different lengths. You could actually even create a box and just keep these in it and work on building your collage every so often. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am just going to start with glue on here, and I think I was going to use my zig glue, but I think I'm going to use white craft glue instead. And I am just going to put some on my page and brush it around. So let me get a foam brush and So the very first step that we're going to do to make our cards is I've picked out 4 cream colored cards and envelopes that go together. So I'm using pre-made card and envelope, and then I'm going to work with my collaged pieces. You want to make sure that everything is nice and dry before you start working with it. And so I have this first piece set out, and what we're going to do is just cut it and put it onto our card front. So I have kind of picked out an area here that I want to work with, and I am trying to decide where I want to cut. Now this first cut is a little difficult because I can't square anything up. So I kind of want to just eyeball where I want to go, and I don't want to cut too much into the rest of the page. So there is my first cut, and then I'm going to turn this and cut the second piece. And then I'll have something to square with. All right. I'm going to bring my blade down. Because I spent time making this collage, I really don't want to waste any bit of it if I can help it. All right. So there, I need to trim off a little bit more. So I'm going to start in the middle. And that foil paper just doesn't want to behave all that well. Okay. And I need to cut just a hair off of this side as well. Sometimes turning it over can work better because you're cutting down through so many different layers. Alright, so there is a cut piece. Cutting board out of the way and bring in our card. Make sure it's opened that way. And then we have a choice, you know, how much of this do we want to put on here? Which direction do we want to make it? Let's see. And then the other option is I can put a color underneath this. So let me grab some colored cardstock and see how that... All right, so I went ahead and cut a piece of orange cardstock. There is no orange in this image whatsoever, but look how that pops around that edge. All right, and that just makes for a beautiful note card. So I'm just going to glue this together, and that will be our first card done. For our next one, I'm going to take our strips of paper collage, and I'm taking paper punch, and I am just going to go in and punch out some fun little circles. And I'm going to need, because of the size that I'm punching, I'm going to need about 16 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera and then come back and show you how we're going to put it all together. So here's the next idea. Nothing is glued down yet, but I just wanted to show you that I went ahead and punched my holes from similar colors, all right, so that they would relate to each other. And then I placed them around so you can see the movement of the different colors throughout the grid. And then I put in between there, I put sequins. Now, I am doing this just by sight and not using a measuring or lining things up or anything. So I am just going to glue them down in place, and then that will be our second design. For our next card, I'm going to go into our kind of random collage, and I'm going to cut out a square, but I'm going to cut it from an area that is more larger pieces than smaller pieces. So I'm just going to go across here, and that gives me the bottom and the top. And then if I can, I'm going to cut with scissors here a little bit farther over than what I intend to use. There we go. And that way it will be cutting out this squared piece a bit easier. So let's see, the shorter dimension here. So I know, let's see, I'm gonna have to turn this upside down. I am going to go, did I go 2.5? 2 3/4. Let's go 2 3/4. And square this off. 2 3/4. You can see I'm cutting on the back so that it cuts easier. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down into thirds. So 3 and 3. So let me figure that out mathematically, and then I'll come back and show you what we have. All right, to show you what I've done, I have divided it into 9 pieces. They're all squares. So, and then I went ahead and numbered them. I think it should be easy to figure out how it goes together, but just in case. So then I am just going to go in and cut these down. All right, for this one, it wasn't holding together very well, and I was going to put it on the orange square to coordinate with the other card in the stash. However, I went ahead and cut it apart and put it on the orange, and it wasn't holding together. So my thought to save this is to go ahead and stamp a large image on top of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and ink up this stamp and stamp it onto that piece. I'm looking for my dry eraser because that's what I use to push down with, but there it is. All right, so I'll just try to go over this really well. It doesn't look like it's going to connect everywhere. I'm having a bit of trouble with it connecting over here, so we may have to take the stamp. Gosh, I hate to mess this one up. All right, so here is the result of this one. I really had to do a lot to save this image, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. So before cutting your pieces into your 9 grids pieces, I would stamp an image on top of it and then do the cutting. Now I glued it down to the orange paper, thinking that it would coordinate with this card and the orange in the background, but it didn't look good. I'm surprised because the orange is the complement to the blue stamping, and it really should look better than it did. So then I put some very small vinyl holographic tape over the orange, and it was a blue colored tape to coordinate with the blue ink, and I think that is working well enough for us to move on to our last card. All right, so once again, I'm taking a piece of the collaged paper, and I am going to cut this down into small little strips. I think I'm going to flip it over and cut from the back side because it seems to work a bit better going through that way. So you can see I'm just cutting small little strips. I'm going to try to keep them in order. And then we will move them over to our card to put it together. You know, the last one is so small, I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All right, so I messed up. Anyway, there's our strips. Here is our card front. So let me take a few minutes to get this in the right order, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, this one is solid, and so I'm going to take it out. And let's see, this one actually goes here. This one goes here. All right, that should work. So then what I want to do is just stagger these. Maybe putting a little space between them. All right, let me find the arrangement that works, and then we'll come back and glue it down. All right, so I'm using my magnet to hold it in place. I think having them touching works best. And so now all I need to do is go underneath each one and glue it down in place. And so I am going to use a little trick for getting glue under there. Let me grab a scrap piece of paper here. All right. And now I'm going to put a generous amount of glue on here and go underneath. Hopefully this doesn't move around too much on me. Even if I get one part of it glued down and move my magnet, we'll be in better shape than just trying to lift everything up and put it back down where I want it. Okay, let's see, I think that's gonna work. All right, so now all I have to do is just glue the tops down. And we can do a bunch of these all at once. All right, and a little bit of weight, and that one will be done too. So let's take a look at our finished collage pieces. All right, so the first one we did was this, and I put the orange border around it. Our second one was the circles. Now it could be any paper punch. You could have done flowers, squares, whatever paper punch you have. I happen to have a circle, and so that's what I did. And then I thought the sequence went well with it because they were circular, and I picked up on some of the colors that were in our paper, which was the green. So that was that one. The next one gave me a little bit of trouble, but I think in the end it fits well with the set. And this is the one where you want to cut a square, stamp it, and then cut it into 9 pieces and put a little space between them so that the image and the background go together. And my suggestion was going with a piece that had larger colored pieces, or collaged pieces, so that it would fit. But I think actually doing something a little bit smaller and tighter collage might actually work better for this idea. And remember, I put it on an orange background, so there is some orange peeking through in a few areas. It's kind of hard to see. If you get up close, you can see it. I didn't like the orange. I was trying to make it coordinate with this card, and it just didn't work for me. So I went ahead and put some vinyl tape in the channels to separate out the image. And so the image actually does, it's not just stamped and then the tape is put over the image. There's actually space between the 9 square pieces. And then the last one, we just cut into strips and adjusted them on the front of the card. And there is our card set that it would be a great gift. You could use them individually. You could add sentiments to them, however you would like. But there is a nice set of 4 greeting cards made from our scrap paper. Now remember, this is what I have left from the 2 sheets that we made. I have this piece and this piece left that I can craft with. Now I could die cut out of these. That would be another option. Might be a nice addition to this idea, although these are all geometric in shape. So I think I would like to leave this set as is, but I could see die cutting out of these and using them in card making, junk journaling, paper crafting, lots of different options. Now, with the circular one, when I went to punch it sometimes, because I didn't get the glue in all the places it came apart, so I just fixed that. And I can see here that this one has a little area without glue under it. It's easy enough to just put some more glue in there as you use it. But I like this idea of making these collage, I'm going to call them boards, although I don't really want to do it on a heavy board paper. I like the idea of a lighter weight, maybe a very lightweight cardstock, and putting these in your stash and then using them in lots of different ways. I mean, these could be pockets, they could be used on covers, they could be, like I said, die cut. You could do, any similar thing like this, but I think that they are very artistic in nature, and I really like the results, and this would make a very cute little set of greeting cards. Let me know what you think. Let me know which one is your favorite. And if you like this idea of taking your scrap pieces and just building a collage sheet that you could use later for your paper crafting.